Welcome to Difficult Conversation Africa broadcast. I present to you the host, Yinka Olaito.
It is a new year, and this is 2026. Welcome to Difficult Conversation Africa podcast, a platform where we raise issues many are afraid to discuss. Within the last 1 year of its full inception, we have done over 64 conversations, and the engagement had been very, very promising and very insightful. As we start the year 2026, we have a conversation that we think is very, very important. And the conversation is centered around women, basically. And the topic will be looking at women voices and Nigeria fight for inclusive development. There have been quite a lot of noises here and there, particularly increase in the number of representation of women in the governance, in the National Assembly, and many more. These are part of the things that are very at the foundation for this conversation. And I will let you know, like our established custom is on this platform. I will tell you the background for this conversation, and then I will introduce my guest. Women in Nigeria are critical force in driving socio-economic and political transformation. Despite making up nearly half of the population, in fact, the statistics say that they are more than half of the population, women voices remain underrepresented in decision-making spaces. That is from boardroom to parliamentary hall, from digital economy to grassroots and development. Their contribution in entrepreneurship, governance, peace building, education, and ICT innovation are increasingly visible but often overlooked. Across Nigeria, women are steadily reshaping narrative of power, innovation, and leadership. From boardroom to parliament, from farm to fintech hub, Nigeria women are changing the stereotype and asserting their role as central player in the national development. Yet, systemic barriers such as unequal access to finance, limited political inclusion, and digital divide still hinder their full potential. By examining challenges such as gender biases across resources, cultural barriers, and digital exclusion, this episode will explore how amplifying women's voices is not only an issue of equity, but also as a driver of national progress. My guest today is Mrs. Stone Okewale Shonaya, the CEO of Women FM Radio, convener of Voices of Women Award, and a leading advocate of women inclusion and development, who had used our platform, Women Radio, to enhance women and development. Welcome to the program, Mrs. Stone.
Thank you, Mr. Yinka. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for the opportunity to have you, and thank you for what you are doing towards the national development with regards to women. Let's go straight to the discussion today. What does it mean for Nigeria women to truly have a voice in the country development agenda?
Thank you very much again, Mr. Yinka. So for me, a voice simply means representation, honestly. And having a voice goes beyond just showing up in the room. It means that you're genuinely heard. It means that your thoughts, your ideas can shape decisions, can influence policies, and drive real change. So when a woman speaks about education, security, or economy, she's not just talking about women's issues. She's talking about Nigeria's progress. She's talking about a nation's development. So for me, a real voice is one that changes changes outcomes, not just decorates conversations. So we see the power of this voice in action through media, through advocacy, through legislation. Take the Special Seats Bill, for example. It is designed to guarantee women's representation in political leadership. And you can see so many voices, so many women groups, and men as well, advocating for this. Without this structural, I'll call it structural interventions and voices, many capable women would continue to be excluded from decision-making spaces. Now, I want us to look at stories from activism that further highlight the voices, the impact of women in raising their voices. We can see the issue of the tragic case of Ochanya Ogbanje, who was brought to national attention because of voices, because of systemic failures in protecting girls from abuse. So advocacy, media coverage around her story pushed authorities to act and sparked conversations about accountability and child protection. For me, that is what voice means. You look at organizations like Braveheart Initiative, led by Priscilla. They have consistently amplified survivors' voices. They've educated communities and fought for justice for women and girls across Nigeria. This is what I call using your voice to shape development. Even individual acts of courage can change the system. The case of Maria Shuaibu, who was a fellow of the Women Radio Network through the MacArthur Foundation, she went undercover to expose a quack doctor in Jos, Plateau State, who was illegally charging 5,000 naira only for abortion for minors, for girls as young as 14, 15, 16. And so what did Maria do? With our support and the training from the Women Radio Center supported by the MacArthur Foundation, she went undercover. She actually went as one of the young girls, and got this man's voices and video where he was ready to do abortion for her. So the bravery of Maria demonstrate the women's voices we're talking about. And what happened to this quack doctor? He was arrested. He was put behind the bars. The police, the government of Plateau State came together, worked with us. So that is what voices do. So having a voice is not a luxury. It is a tool for transformation, because when women are heard, Nigeria will progress, policies will improve, systems become more than just, and the future becomes more inclusive. So the voices are very critical. Voices are really, really critical. And that is why that to me is what the Nigerian women, that is what the voices of Nigerian women represent for me when it comes to the development of agenda in development agenda in Nigeria.
Thank you for that insight, and thank you for what you do at Women Radio, which is presently the only women-focused radio in Nigeria. Now, you talk about structural issues, and the next question we have to deal with is what structural injustice continue to silence or limit voices of women based on your own work and based on your own outlook to Nigeria issue.
Yes, I mean, when you talk about women's voices, obviously you know what I represent. Women Radio is Nigeria's only radio station for women and their families, and we call ourselves a voice of women, and we do represent women. So structural injustice that continue to silence and limit women's voices. There's quite a number of them, and none of these are individual failures. They are deep.
Okay.
They are structural injustices that consistently work against women. Let us look at political exclusion, which remains one of the biggest barriers in Nigeria. Politics in Nigeria is extremely difficult for women. That's a structural barrier. It's expensive, it's hostile, and it is male dominated. Look, INEC, I think there's a 2023 report from INEC during the general elections that said only 3.8% candidates were women, despite women making up nearly half of all registered voters. It is a structural injustices that, this isn't because women lack capacity. It's because of the system that is built in a way that keeps women out. A major part of this exclusion is our constitution itself, which in practical terms has become one of the highest forms of structural injustice against Nigerian women in politics. The constitution does not guarantee affirmative action, proportional representation or gender quotas, which is why we continue to advocate for the special seats bill. If the bill is passed, that would represent a critical step towards affirmative action, ensuring that women and also persons with disabilities, women with disabilities who face similar structural disadvantages, have legally protected seat at the table. Beyond the law, the political structure also functions like an old boys' school. The funding gap, is it the political campaign? Oh, it is. I mean, the political structure is an old boys' club. There's no doubt about that. There is no doubt about that. And I think is everywhere, is a global thing, but is very, very dominant in Nigeria. The funding gap, right? The political campaigns in Nigeria are expensive. You and I know this. And women are systemically less likely, to own a property or have access to large financial networks, meaning women cannot compete financially with well-funded male opponents. Without money, you cannot secure the tickets. You cannot mobilize voters. You cannot even run a visible campaign. So, godfatherism and gatekeeping, these barriers are compounded by cultural norms that still dictate what roles are considered appropriate for women. Of course, we have the digital and the economic barriers. Those are there's a lot that does work against women, and these limitations, the constitutional gaps, the funding inequality, the party gatekeeping, the cultural norms, the digital exclusion, they're not isolated. They're not personal shortcomings. They are systemic structural challenges that continue to silence and limit women's voices in Nigeria. And we need to be deliberate, intentional, as men, as women, as politics, reviewing constitution to ensure that we pull these gaps and these roadblocks, that exclude women, to allow women to be part of governance, to enjoy their rights and benefits like every other citizen.
Thank you for that feedback. I know I would have asked one question, that whose fault is this? Because I think that women too have a role in all of these. But maybe that will be a discussion for another day. Let me go straight to the next question that I actually have. How much do women leadership style challenge and enrich the current political and economic system? We know that women leadership style may be different from male-dominated environment, like you have said. But how much of this is affecting their opportunity to grow, their opportunity to scale in the national development?
So, women's leadership consistently show that when systems are transparent, inclusive, and people-centered, they work better for everyone. Across sectors, women leaders demonstrate that change is possible when integrity and accountability are prioritized. I'm going to use one example. It's called the Sadiku standard. And this was inspired by the leadership of Yewande Sadiku. If you remember Yewande Sadiku, during her tenure at the NIPC, Nigeria Investment Promotion Commission, under Yewande Sadiku's watch, the NIPC moved from 90th position to first place in national transparency rankings. She achieved this by she published financial operational performance data proactively, proving that systemic secrecy can indeed be dismantled through strong institutional reform. So for me, Yewande Sadiku's leadership showed that transparency, right, is theoretical. It's not theoretical. It is a choice a leader can make. And she did that. And that is what we bring to the table. I also what comes to my mind now is Grace Jerry. Grace Jerry championed. She's a woman with disability. She championed inclusive political participation for persons with disabilities. And what did she do? She helped to establish the framework that enabled persons with disabilities to exercise their right to vote with dignity. And of course, we know that her work expanded democratic access, reminding us that leadership is not only about holding office, but about breaking barriers so others can participate fully. So these are just examples about women demonstrating a pattern, because when women lead, systems shift. Women tend to collaborate more. We listen more. We build consensus and we think long term. And the leadership of women prioritizes transparency, empathy, community-focused solutions. Women frequently advocate. I'm not saying men do not do that, but we just bring something on board. And you can see from the examples that I gave that when women lead, systems become more balanced, more inclusive, and more accountable. So women's leadership doesn't just fill gaps, Mr. Yinka.
Thank you.
It transforms structures and shows what is possible when integrity, empathy, and fairness guide decision making. Thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate that feedback. But all the same, I'm a pro women. I'm a E for she. But I have also seen cases like exceptional cases like Etegate and all of them happening in Nigeria. And this will lead us to the next question. How do you see the current state of women representation in Nigeria political landscape, and what structural barriers remain? I'm sure you've mentioned some of them, but let's also look at it from all these a few exceptions. I love the example of Grace Jerry and all of them that you have mentioned, but are there internal or sex-based barrier to their political representation? I'm just asking.
So if I hear you, you want me to look at the current state of women's political representation. I think that to be honest, Nigeria is still far behind, when it comes to women's political representation, especially when we compare ourselves to other African countries. We consistently rank near the bottom,
Wow.
And yes, we consistently rank near the bottom. And what nations like Rwanda, Senegal, South Africa, Ethiopia, Uganda, and Namibia, what they have done in making significant progress was through intentional political reforms and gender quotas. This issue of women representation is global, but they have taken deliberate actions to ensure that they include women, and some of them have taken some special decisions similar to what we're trying to do with the special seat bill. So I'm not going to okay, for the purposes of this conversation, right? We barely have 4.7% representation of women in governance, and is one of the lowest in Africa. Now, Nigeria has never elected a female president. We have never elected a female vice
US too has never.
No. So we've never elected a female vice president. We have never elected a female governor, right? We have never. The National Assembly, we have elected. No, elected. I'm talking about elections, sir. I'm choosing my words. Elections. I'm talking about election. I'm not talking about appointments, sir. Neither am I talking about somebody got there because somebody died or somebody was. I'm talking about election. Election. Because when you're elected, you're there for a period, for a season. So I'm talking about election. We've never had an elected female vice president, elected female president, elected female governor, right? We've never had it. The head of the leader of the National Assembly, we've not had it. right? So the issue is not that women are not qualified. Nigeria has no shortage of competent, capable women, brilliant and experienced women. The problem is that the system is not designed to accommodate women. It's a system. And it's not just a Nigeria system, it's a global system. And that's why the countries I've mentioned, like Namibia,
Exactly.
like Senegal, they've taken, intentional actions to ensure that women are involved, right? The barriers are structural, like
Okay.
cost of election, political violence, male-dominated party structures, cultural expectations, lack of intentional reform is on and on and on. And until political parties actively decide to reform these structures, the numbers will not change. But there is progress, and that is what matters. I want to quickly mention that because I've spoken about the challenges, we also need to talk about our progress. This is the first time
Exactly.
in the history of Nigeria that we are having 9 women serving as deputy governors. So that is a progress for
That's
me.
progress.
And we need to talk about remarkable milestones and demonstration of what political will can do. Now, if you recall, the governor of Abdulrahman Abdulrazak of Kwara State. I always like to mention Abdulrahman Abdulrazak of Kwara State. He broke multiple records, and we need to always remember this man.
Yeah.
He broke multiple records. History changes when leaders decide it must change. Look, Kwara State under Abdulrahman Abdulrazak broke a lot of multiple records. We have the youngest House of Representative member in the country from Kwara State. The youngest commissioner in Nigeria is from Kwara State. In his first dispensation, we had the highest number of women appointed as commissioners. They were more than the men. He broke that record, right?
Yeah.
He broke that
That's
record.
true.
So we can do it, and it can be done. You understand? So I mentioned the 9 deputy governors. Look, this development gives me genuine hope that for 2027, we can push the boundary even further. If every state, if every a man that chooses to contest for the position of a governor, if every political party says for the position of the governorship of all the states of Nigeria, the deputy will be a female, then our ranking will rise. It can be done. That is political will, strong political will. From the presidency to the National Assembly and the Governors Forum, it is entirely possible for them to put Nigeria's first elected female governor in 2027. If this president wants to do it, it can be done. The president can say, you know what? Let us make this history happen. It can happen. And I'm hoping that, they will think about this before they leave. The 10th Assembly can ensure that the special seats bill is passed. It can be done. They can make that history. The president and the political parties can ensure that we elect the first female governor in Nigeria. It's a political will. They do it for other men, they can do it. So, all of these things
I do know.
What did you say?
I do know that some of the things that you're saying are very correct, and that is very important. But also, you forget that when it comes to power, power is not given a la carte. It's not given free of charge. You have to position for it. You have to show that you have the confidence, the capacity, and the energy to run those things. One of the things is economic empowerment. And we're going to talk about finance. Because that is what I want you to actually look at. What way can women economic participation contribute in Nigeria growth, especially in small business and politically?
Before I go to that, I want to give you an answer to what you just said. That power is not given a la carte. You have to show that you are able to do it. You have to. My brother, power is given. Power is given to who you want to
Really?
give power to. My brother, let's see. I'm not doing
Yeah,
theory
you
with
have a
you.
point.
You have a
You
I'm
have
not
a
doing.
point. You have a
I'm
point
not.
anyway.
I'm not doing theory with you. I'm being practical here. We
Yeah.
know of governors that we know that normally they would not become governors, but somebody
without backing. Yeah, that's true.
somebody has proposed it. That, you know what, the
Yeah.
next governor is going to be XYZ. So power is given. However, the person you're giving the power to, like you said, also has to be ready mentally, physically,
Exactly.
politically, you know. And I'm telling you that women are there. Look, we have 9 female governors, 9 female deputy governors. Have you heard any crisis?
I know.
They are performing. So, my brother, this thing did not happen by accident. It happened because the party willed it. It happened because a party willed it and backed that decision with action. So, political will at the federal level can do the same for Nigeria to elect its first female governor. It can happen that every state will have meaningful female representation. My brother, it is the governors.
So women also have to come out to become decision makers to wield that position.
But women are there.
Because we are
women are there. We already,
because we are journalists. That's why we are talking like this, so that we can have a balance.
My brother, look, women are there. Ma'am. We can see what women are doing in the corporate sector. Women ministers, female ministers, they are performing. We know what they're doing. You know, the female ministers are performing. Look, a lot of women are now leading even government parastatals. The president understands the power of women. He understands that women are reliable, women can do it, women are competent, women are capable. But we just need to take that decision that, you know what, come 2027, let us work and ensure that one woman becomes the governor. And it can be done. You know, it can be done. The reforms like the special seats bill, it is them that need to pass it. So it can be done. You know, so it can, and honestly, I believe that these things can happen under this administration if the political will is sustained and if institutions commit to changing the history of Nigeria, it can be done, and I hope it will be done. So you spoke about economic participation boost, boosting Nigeria's growth, especially with SMEs. I understand. Now, according to and I think this is actually the latest benchmark from the MasterCard Index of women entrepreneurs. Nigeria, right? I'm not going to talk about the other 3 because we're here about Nigeria. Nigeria ranks 4th globally in countries with the highest concentration of female entrepreneurs. I think that is highly commendable. That tells you that when it comes to entrepreneurship, how many countries do we have in the world? We ranked 4th position with countries with the highest concentration of female entrepreneurs, according to that data. So women are already the backbone of Nigeria's informal sector. We can see it clearly in trade, in Nollywood, in fashion, in agriculture, in food processing, and in the micro retail. But what many people don't realize is that women are not only participating, we are leading. We are leading one of the strongest entrepreneurial movements in the world, as I just mentioned. Now, Nigeria also has one of the largest numbers of women entrepreneurs in the world, over 23 million. So women own approximately 41% of all micro businesses and SMEs in this country, and one of the highest figures in Africa. This means, Brother Yinka, that women are not emerging contributors. They are already driving the economy. There's this lady that we need to watch out for. She's the first female and the first Nigerian to lead a microfinance bank, Asha Microfinance Bank, Funlola Paseda. You know, she under her. Look, I firsthand, I saw what they're doing with women entrepreneurs. They're demonstrating how providing accessible capital to women can transform communities, how it can accelerate SME growth and strengthen the entire local economy. So for me, when women are given financial tools, the repayment rates are high. The reinvestment in family and community is immediate, and the economic impact multiplies. So the truth is simple. When women earn, the nation grows. When women earn, families eat. When women run businesses, communities stabilize. When women own SMEs, my brother, jobs are created. When women access capital, economies expand. So, global evidence has shown that your return on investment is higher when you invest in women. So,
All right,
supporting women
Thank you.
is not charity, it
Because
is strategic
I
economic
know.
decision.
Because of our time, I need to ask these two questions in one, so that we can wrap it up, and I hope that we'll have a second edition of this. I'm more particular about women in the rural settings. Their level of empowerment is low compared to those in the urban settings. What do you think government can do, and people like you, women leaders, can do to improve on their fortune? And finally, you are a journalist and a leader in the industry for that matter. How does media storytelling about women change the narrative of all this?
I think one practical strategy is to take technology directly to rural women instead of expecting them to find their way to urban centers. We need to set up community-based digital literacy clubs. I'll say affordable smartphones and local training centers. A good example, I like to give examples, is the W Tech led by Ore Shomolu.
Okay.
They run
Yes,
programs where they empower women and girls with digital technology skills, and these programs have shown us that access to technology is a big part of the solution. We need strong women's cooperatives that help rural women access larger skills. I just mentioned Asha Microfinance, and most importantly, government programs should also be, culturally accessible. So if they're introducing grant training, it must be communicated in languages spoken. They're doing it. They're doing it. They're doing it, but we just need to do more. So for me, ultimately, empowering rural women means bringing opportunity to them, because that is the only way we can eliminate the barriers that limit their access and build systems that recognize their potentials. Now, you want me to talk about an area that I'm sorry.
Passion.
Yeah.
Media and storytelling.
You want me to talk about an area that I'm passionate about, media and storytelling. Media, like you and I know, is powerful because when you consistent, look, media is not just powerful. When you consistently show women as leaders, as innovators, as thinkers and decision makers, then your community and society will begin to accept women as normal, so that we will not go back to the fact that power is not given a la carte. You would already know that the women can deliver. Storytelling will dismantle stereotypes. It will highlight success stories, and that's what we do well at Women Radio, and reshape how communities perceive women's role. That's what we do well at Women Radio. Everything we do, our mandate is to show the development of women, is to show that women are performing and women are doing great things. We saw this impact clearly at the Voice of Women. You spoke about awards. We host the Voice of Women Conference and Awards. This is the 10th year that we are hosting this. Our conversations are centered on amplifying women's voices, on promoting inclusion, political inclusion, and addressing systemic barriers. And we have consistently used the media, the conference, and our media to bring together policy leaders, activists, and community voices to push for change. So, the Women Radio, the Voice of Women Conference and Award, we use these platforms and our public gatherings to elevate women's voices, including women with disabilities. And I think we need to do this. We also have a lot of media. Media are already doing this as well. Nigerian media, I need to give it to them. I'll say that in the last few years, they've been intentional and be deliberate in pushing women's stories out. So I think the media is doing a fantastic work, but we just need to do more to ensure that the narrative changes and our attitudes will follow. You and I and media will be the one that will show the society that women can actually deliver and lead.
I want to sincerely thank you, Mrs. Tohun Okewale-Shonaya, for this insightful session. It has been an insightful session for me, and I believe that our audience will have a lot to learn from this. Our topic today had been Women Voices and Nigeria Fight for Inclusive Development. She had been able to raise the fact that power is given, no matter what we say it is. And that's a new perspective that I will be living here with, that power is given, whether directly or indirectly. Somebody made the decision to ensure that somebody is there. And I think our politicians need to hear this again, that power is given. Don't say, we should stop saying that it is not given free of charge. On this note, I want to say thank you to everybody. Thank you for our listeners. And thank you for all the feedback we have been getting. We encourage you once again to reach out to us on all the platforms that we have, social media platform. Or if you want to talk to us directly, send us a mail at info@difficultconversationafrica.org. See you in the next edition, and thank you for this session.
Thank you for listening to this episode. For inquiry, please send an email to info@difficultconversationafrica.org. Telephone 0809 3160591. Please follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Difficult Conversation Africa. See you soon.